Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm DJ Johnson, State Representative, 13th District, parts of Davis County. And today I have the privilege and the honor of introducing our distinguished veteran today. Now, Mr. Chairman, his biography goes 4 pages. But in the interest of time, I will attempt to do justice of this man's career with a summary. I don't think I'll do the justice it should, but I will do my best. Major General Dean Allen Youngman, retired, was commissioned in the U.S. Army Infantry through Officer Candidate School on April 16, 1970. He has had literally 2 pages of assignments that I could read, but significant assignments include tours with the 8th Special Airborne, the Military Assistance Command Vietnam, and the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault. In 1997, he was selected, after a long and distinguished career, I should say, at that point, he was selected to represent the reserve components of the staff on the National Defense Panel. And then from June 1998 through June 1999, he served in the Office of the Assistance to the Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff for National Guard and Reserve Matters. From June 1999 to July 2000, he served as a Special Assistant to the Commanding General, United States Army Armor Center, Fort Knox, Kentucky. At that point, General Youngman was appointed as the 50th Adjutant General to the Commonwealth of Kentucky by Paul E. Patton on August 10, 2001. He has, again, a long list of education. Starts with the Army Infantry School, where he was commissioned as a second lieutenant, started his career there. But maybe even more important than that, more important than all of his other decorations and accomplishments, was he graduated from the U.S. Army Airborne School in 1970. And the distinguishing part of that is not only that he volunteered to jump out of an airplane, he also became a senior parachutist in the process. And then after that became a master parachutist, which is the epitome of the airborne world. He is the guy that puts people out of airplanes into the combat zones, and he's done it dozens and dozens of times. His awards, again, a full page, but I will try to be brief, include, but are not limited to, the Silver Star, the Defense Superior Service Medal, the Legion of Merit with Oak Leaf Clusters, multiple awards, the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, the Army Meritorious Service Medal with multiple Oak Leaf Clusters, and the list just goes on and on and on. After General Youngman finished his military career, he became a senior consultant at the American Business Development Group, which specializes in re-equipping and modernization of the U.S. Armed Forces. And since then, he has become nationwide one of the most recognized experts on re-equipping, rearming, and modernizing our forces today, particularly in small arms. Mr. Chairman, I offer you Major General Dean Allen Youngman for comment. But first, General, before you speak, you know, the Army military is known for taking pride in being the most efficient part of our government. And in keeping with that concept of efficiency, today, instead of 1 award, I'd like to do 2. Let's do a 2-for-1, Mr. Chairman. So, please. Brad Youngman, would you come up? Have a seat, sir. So Brad Youngman, at least second generation, was your dad or?
Dad and grandfather.
So Brad Youngman is 4th generation, serving our country and serving our state. And I would also like to introduce him as our 2nd distinguished veteran today.
Thank you.
And he didn't know that was coming. Brad graduated from Owensboro High School in 1998, where he enlisted in the Kentucky Army National Guard. He was assigned to the 20th Special Forces Group out of Louisville. And after completing some training, he went to the University of Southern Indiana, where he joined the ROTC program. But before he completed that program, Brad was activated to full-time status in the Army and was deployed to Afghanistan in September of 2002, again with the 20th Special Forces Group Airborne. There is a trend there with the Airborne. He was trained as a counterintelligence agent and deployed in a term that's called outside the wire. And what I mean by outside the wire was inside the wire was the base, outside the wire was the rest of the world, where all the bad guys were. So he was constantly deployed outside of the wire. When he finished that deployment, he returned from Afghanistan, went back to USI, and eventually completed his ROTC program, earning his commission as a lieutenant in the Army. He elected to stay with the 20th Special Forces Group and the Kentucky Army National Guard, but Brad's true calling was to be in law enforcement. So he became a full-time officer with the Owensboro Police Department for several years, but then again was called back to active duty to go once again to Iraq, where he served in Iraq as a captain in the Army with the 20th SFG one more time, and that closed out his military operations in Iraq. Brad returned home to Owensboro and eventually retired from the Army National Guard after over 20 years in service and ran for sheriff of Davis County in 2021, where he was elected sheriff. Mr. Chairman, committee members, I also give you Brad. So it took so long on the intro that we probably don't have the usual amount of time, so I'm going to ask you guys to split the time. General, if you'd like to have a few words. Brad, if you got anything to add, it's on you. You'll just need to hit that green light there.
Thank you, Jumpmaster. Appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'll be brief. This is an unexpected honor, and it means a lot because it is this committee. Backing up a little bit, I became the Adjutant General in August of 2001. I thought I was going to retire as a colonel. I didn't know anybody in Frankfort. I'd only met the governor once, but he picked me to be the Adjutant General. September 11th was my 30th day on the job. Obviously, my career took a little bit different direction at that point. On that day, I was down in the command center trying to figure out what line is he on. She said, "You don't understand, he's in your office." And so there was the governor, and he asked me, he said, he had the state police commissioner with him, and a couple other guys said, "Should I close down state government?" I said, "Well, Governor, I don't have any more information than anybody else, but my sense is this thing's kind of run its course right now, so no, I would not do that." Well, an hour later, he had a press conference, said those exact words. And I called my wife. We were still living in Fort Knox. Said, "If a truck backfires in the city of Frankfort in the next 2 weeks, I'm out of a job." The reason this room and the one next door are so special, obviously one of the first things I had to do is come over and let the Joint Interim Committee know what was going on. And I've got to tell you, if there was a period of bipartisanship, that was it. I came over, members of this committee and others had really tough questions to ask. And I did my best to answer them. At the end of the session, they always had one more question for me. What else do you need? And that was pretty special in a time of war. Those of you who remember that era, that was a tense time. In the next was in the other chamber, and the governor were not necessarily best friends. I had two small bills I'd asked for, and nothing was getting out of the Senate, even though it had passed the House. I got called the next last day of the session with the majority caucus, and Senator Williams says, "Well, tell me about this bill." I did. He says, "Do you need it?" I said, "Yes, sir." "Tell me about the other bill." "Do you need it?" "Yes, sir." He says, "Okay, put them both on what they had a consent decree or consent calendar at that time." By the time I got back to my office, the phone was ringing. It was the governor himself saying, "Okay, how did you get bills through when none of the rest of the cabinet or this office can? What did you promise?" I said, "Governor, I'm regarded as a non-combatant because I'm wearing an Army uniform." And I thought that was a pretty special time also. The only one other member, Brad was in Afghanistan and place the Secretary of the Army said was the worst place on earth. And he said he was able to call me once every 2 or 3 months. He said, "Dad, tomorrow we've actually got an aircraft to do some local reconnaissance." As I was way over here to meet the next morning at this committee, CNN announced that an American helicopter had been shot down. That was a tough morning for me. Just as I was called up to this table, My exec said we found out it wasn't Brad's aircraft, but that was that kind of set the tenor for the time 20 years ago. But I will never forget how supportive this committee has been, and still are, for the Kentucky National Guard, both Air and Army, and the military. I mean, thank you very much for this honor.
Thank you, General Youngman. There's probably a few committee members here that would like your help getting their Senate bills through too. So, if you're still available there. Brad, is there anything you'd like to add? We appreciate you being here.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Members of the committee, thank you for having us. And I'm very surprised. I was not expecting any of this. I just want to thank each of you for the work that you do, not only for veterans, but also as a member of law enforcement. It seems like there's always something that one of those groups needs, and you are there to provide for us. The time that I spent, him telling those stories reminds me of, probably one of the funniest things of our family history is that I was not actually allowed to go to Afghanistan as an ROTC cadet. He had to give me permission. So when it was all said and done, they said, well, you have to ask your commanding officer. And I said, that's my dad. I don't know if he's going to say yes or not. So he did. And I just remember as a child coming to Frankfurt as I got older and seeing the work that you all do up here and how beautiful the Capitol is and how great this city is. And I'm actually honored that my son, General Youngman's grandson, Caden, is able to come up here and see this today. So thank you all for everything you're doing. Thank you for recognizing us.
3 generations there. I am going to step down, and we're going to get a picture. And please, I heard applause starting, so please go ahead.